The Artificer, one of my favourite D&D classes, and one of the only, I think it's actually the only main, I say main, the only core official D&D subclass that isn't in the game. Obviously you have like Gunslinger and Bloodhunter from Critical Role, but the Artificer is an amazing, amazing class to players, and it's not in the game. Now, there are mods you can do this to have an actual Artificer class in the game. However, if you're a console player, you can't get mods, and some people don't really like playing around with mods because it's complicated and whatnot. So I made a Artificer class using the existing classes in the game. Now, it's not perfect, and it is a combination of a couple of Artificer subclasses, but I've done my very best to build an Artificer class that works and is good in the game, and that only dips from spells within the Artificer's spell list from levels 1 to 5, because an Artificer is capped at level 5 spells. So we will be capping ourselves at level 5 spells as well. So, to begin this build, we are going to start with a wizard at level 1. Now, your options for cantrips that you can take, and these are from the official spell list, is Acid Splash, Firebolt, Poison Spray, Ray of Frost, Shocking Grasp, Dancing Lights, Light, and Mage Hand. Now, these are the spells you can choose at level 1 based on, at cantrip level based on what is available to an Artificer. For me personally, I took, to have a little range of abilities, I took Light, Firebolt, Shocking Grasp. You've got one ranged, one melee, one utility. Because Artificer class is all around utility and about buffing other people and being a really good support character. And we're going to be sort of crossing between the Battlesmith and the Alchemist subclasses for the Artificer. So, that is our cantrips. Now, for our spells at level 1, what we have available here that we can take is Disguise Self, Expeditious Retreat, we can have False Life, we can have Featherfall, we can have Grease, we may have Longstrider, and if you wanted to, you could take Mage Armor, as the Artificer, the Armorer Artificer subclass is able to modify the armor and make it magical. So you could flavor that to use. I've avoided that just for the sake of being pure as we can. So I would take, at this level, Expeditious Retreat. I would take False Life, Featherfall, Grease to pair it with Firebolt, and I would take Longstrider. And to round it out, I would take Mage Armor, and we're not going to have it equipped. So, for your base stats, the Artificer relies on using Intelligence for its spellcasting, which is the main reason we started with our Wizard. We're also going to focus on Constitution and Dexterity, which will make more sense later. So I would drop Charisma down, and I'd bump Dexterity up to 14, and this would be my spread if I was to start this. For skill proficiencies, we are going to take 2 proficiencies that the Artificer is allowed. The first being Investigation, the second being Medicine. So those will be the 2 you would take. Okay, so at level 2, we are sticking with Wizard, so we get our subclass. Now for this, we are going to do Transmutation. There's a key ability here that we are going to take, which is very akin to the Artificer, which is that the Artificer can imbue magic into items, while a Transmutation Wizard gets a stone at level 6 that allows them to store spells inside. So that is what we're aiming for here. And before the Artificer class was core D&D, and this was the closest you could get. We also have Experimental Alchemy. You can brew 2 alchemical solutions instead of 1 when combining extracts, if you succeed a DC 15 medicine check. Hence why we took a proficiency in medicine, and hence why we can focus on the alchemist aspect of this as well. So for our next set of spells, we are going to take Disguise Self, because that is on the Artificer spell list, and we're going to take Shield. Now this isn't ideal, but again it is akin to the Armorer subclass that can buff the armor and whatnot, so Shield is our best option here. Now at level 3, this is where we start to dip into the other Artificer class of the Battlesmith. Now the Battlesmith is a more melee and defensive focused Artificer, but it's not core front line per se. So for this, we are going with Fighter. Now, obviously, when it comes to this, there are going to be a few things that we can't control. For example, we are going to have Second Wind, we do have Arcane Recovery, we will have Action Surge, things that the Artificer itself wouldn't have. Again, if you are going to do this, it is entirely up to you if you want to do it. It's not really going to break the game because we are having to pull this together ourselves, and this isn't a min-max-esque multi-class build we're doing. So it's really up to you. I don't really see there's much harm in it, to be honest, if this is the closest you can get. For the fighting style, we are going to take defense. So we get +1 bonus to armor class while wearing armor. Now, the other reason that we're dipping into this proficiency is because the Artificer gets proficiency with shields, and the Battlesmith gets proficiency with martial weapons. And this is akin, the only way we can really do it without going crazy and dipping into something like Ranger or Paladin, which doesn't really make too much sense to me. Paladin might, which we'll touch on later, but for now I think Fighter is the best option. Okay, from level 4 onwards you can kind of do the rest of the build in any order you see fit. So I'm going to take it really simply. We're going to stick with Fighter here and take it to level 2, which will be level 4 overall. Okay, level 5 we're going to stick with Fighter for level 3. This will give us our subclass, and for this we are actually going to do Eldritch Knight, which might seem a little crazy, but the Eldritch Knight allows you to use intelligence for your spell casting, which is what we're really going to focus on. It will allow us to take a few more cantrips, which we can take from the artillerist, or not the artillerist, sorry, from the Artificer spell list, so we're not going to be dipping into anything too crazy. It also allows us to do things such as make our weapon magical, and the Artificer is able to make items magical, so it's a little bit of flavour from the class. Again, it's not as it should be, and it's almost impossible to make a Artificer build when multi-class and two-class together in this game, but this is sort of the most flavoursome way we can do it, with it still being true to what the Artificer is at the core. And you'll see throughout the rest of the build that we're not focusing on melee damage, we are focusing on that spell casting and buffing and just being a utilitarian character. Now, for the spells, we are going to take Acid Splash, which is this one, and Ray of Frost, because they are both available from the Artificer cantrip spell list. Now, because we have got a wide range of spells and the Artificer only has a very select few spells, we are getting a bigger spell book than we usually have with the Wizard, being able to have all these spells on learn spells, and then the Eldritch Knight also having ability to spells. We are going to debuff ourselves a little bit. Now, this is just my personal choice. You can decide to take a whole bunch of other spells if you really want to, like you could take Magic Missile, you could take Burning Hands if you didn't really want to debuff yourself. But I'm going to, just for the sake of it, just try and keep it as close as we can. So to do so, we're going to have Mage Armor. As you can see, it says we already know this spell. We are going to take Shield. Now with Shield, the Battlesmith gets this spell anyway at level 3, so it's not really breaking that anymore. We can take this and not be too worried about breaking the core of what the Artificer is. Now the Artillerist also allows you to take Magic Missile. This is also available to the Armourer subclass for the Artificer, so we could take Magic Missile. Again, same with Thunderwave. This is also available to a Armourer subclass of the Artificer. So if you didn't want to debuff yourself, you could remove Mage Armor and take a Thunderwave. Again, really depends on what you want to do here. Depends on how you want to build your character. Depends on how debuffed you want to make yourself based on the fact you get a bunch of extra spells. But again, you are losing out on certain key subclass abilities from an Artificer because they're not in the game, like an Eldritch Cannon, for example, or like a Steel Watcher. Let me correct that. That's not called a Steel Watcher, it's called a Steel Defender, which would actually get a 3rd level. So you would lose out on that, for example. So it really depends on how you want to balance out what you lose with it not being in the game compared to what you gain from having the ability to dip into other stuff. And then we get to take another spell from our repertoire, and for this I would take Enhanced Leap. Now the reason for this is that at level 1 the Artificer gets the Jump spell. We haven't got Jump, so Enhanced Leap is the closest we can take. Okay, level 4 we are sticking with the fighter. Once again we get another spell. This time we will take mage armor. Now for a feat, this is where we're going to get a little weird. We are going to go down to Mage Initiate Druid. Now, again, this seems a bit weird, and it does use our Wisdom for spellcasting, which isn't ideal. And now from this, we're going to take Thorn Whip, because that is on the Artificer spell list, as well as Guidance. This is also on the Artificer spell list. And we allow ourselves the ability to take Healing Word. This is available to the Alchemist subclass. So we're going to take this, and then we can create more healing around the battlefield and really continue being that utilitarian character. Now again, you don't have to choose this. You could just do an ASI and bump your intelligence up, which we will do later on. Or you could take a different feat that you fancy. But I think allowing us to have more utility and more spells, even though we will not use our intelligence, I think is a benefit. Now this is where we take our low fighter to level 5, and this is where we stop, because the Battlesmith subclass gets an extra attack. Alas, we have an extra attack. Okay, from level 3 onwards we are sticking with Wizard until we get to level 12, which we will then have a discussion about. But at level 3 Wizard, we are going to look for more spells. Now the spells available to the Wizard at level 2 are Arcane Lock, Blur, Dark Vision, Enlarge/Reduce, Invisibility, Magic Weapon, Melf's Acid Arrow. Melf's Acid Arrow, this is due to the Alchemist unlocking this spell at level 5. And it's just a spell given to it, so this is there for a reason. See Invisibility, and Web. Now, for me, I would take Melf's Acid Arrow, because I think that is a great ability to be able to have and continue to deal damage over time. And I would take Enlarge/Reduce again, because the Artificer is a utilitarian-based class. More utility we can have here. Okay, at Wizard level 4, we are going to take the Dancing Lights cantrip, more utilitarian spells for us to use. And we're going to take Blur, to make ourselves harder to hit on the battlefield, and Arcane Lock. Again, another utilitarian-based spell, but this could come in very handy if you want to stop reinforcements coming in, or if you want to block off a certain area. This is a great spell to use. And we're going to take an ASI improvement, and we're going to bump our intelligence up to 19. Okay, Wizard level 5, we have a bunch of more spells, at this time level 3. Now your options here are Grant Flight. Now the Artificer has the Fly spell, so this is similar. It's not perfect, but it's similar. Glyph of Warding, Haste, and Protection from Energy. So for me at this level I would take Protection from Energy and Glyph of Warding. Again, more utilitarian spells as well as more spells to use outside of the battlefield. Okay, we are now level 6, and this is where we get our Transmuter Stone. Store some of your transmutation magic in a small stone. A creature carrying the stone gains a benefit of your choice. Once you've created a stone, you need to cast a transmutation spell of level 1 or higher, or take a long rest before you can create another one. Again, this is such a key part of not only the Transmuter or Transmutation Wizard, but the Artificer who can imbue magic into items. This is really where you get the flavour of the Artificer from this subclass, and as I said before, this was the closest you could get to a Artificer before they came out with the official Artificer class. Okay, now at this level we are going to take Haste and Grant Flight. These two spells, again, more utilitarian, but Haste is phenomenal, especially if you can cast it on a fighter or a barbarian. It's just impeccable. It's such a good spell. Okay, so for this build we are going to stick with the Wizard. However, if you really wanted to, you could multi-class into Paladin. Now the reason I say that is the Battlesmith gets a few Paladin-esque spells. It gets things such as Branding Smite, Aura of Vitality, Aura of Purity, Banishing Smite, those type of things. So you could dip into Paladin if you wanted to get that flavour. Unfortunately, this isn't really a melee-based build with the 8 strength, and Paladin's spellcasting is charisma-based. Charisma's 10. It doesn't really work. For me, I would stick with a Wizard. Now, the spells you can take at level 4 that are on the Artificer spell list are as followed. It is Oaklick's Resilient Sphere, and Stone Skin. These are the only ones that are naturally on the spell list of the Artificer from what I could find. Now, the Battlesmith at level 13 actually unlocks Fire Shield, which is just here. So you could take that. The other option you have, and I mentioned this earlier, is that the Battlesmith gets a Steel Defender, which is a construct that comes and helps you in battle. So it wouldn't be perfect, it wouldn't be similar. You could take Conjure Minor Elemental if you wanted to have that option. Again, this is just really personal choice. It kind of depends on what you feel like. To keep it strictly from the spell list, I would take the Resilient Sphere and I would take Stone Skin. But I don't think there would be an issue taking the Conjure Minor Elemental, since you can, as a Battlesmith, summon a Steel Defender. And in my opinion, the Steel Defender is probably a bit more powerful than the Elemental. It's just the Elemental has the sort of the elemental damage to it, whereas the Steel Defender does not. If I just read you the stats from the Steel Defender, it has a 15 armor class. Its hit points are 2 plus your intelligence modifier, so ours would be 2 plus 4 plus 5 times your Artificer level. So you'd be looking at 12. So you'd be 60. You're looking at about 66 HP, which I think is much more powerful than the Conjure Minor Elemental. It's also going to have a higher armor class. It also has a bunch of stuff like it's immune to poison, immune to charmed, exhaustion, and poison. Has dark vision up to 60 feet. I think the Steel Defender is much better than the Conjure Minor Elemental. So I don't think you would be really overpowering yourself by taking a Minor Elemental Conjuration spell, to be honest. I think that'd be perfectly okay for anyone that's in doubt. But as I said, I would take the Stone Skin and the Resilient Sphere just to keep it strictly to the spell list. And that really is the Artificer class made in Baldur's Gate 3 without any mods. You can obviously go and equip yourself some medium armor and some sword and shield, or a short sword and shield, that sort of thing, which you probably wouldn't be using, to be honest, unless you wanted to drink a strength potion, and then you could also get in melee combat. That'd be perfectly reasonable, because you are a alchemist, so you could. In fact, if I was to go to alchemy, I'm not sure I have enough stuff for it. I didn't have the recipe for it, but if you had the recipe for any kind of elixir or potion that allows you to buff your strength up, like Hill Giant Strength, that sort of thing, you could do that. This is the Transmuter Stone, so we can decide to put a bunch of stuff in here. Resistances, we could do movement speed, dark vision, constitution. Again, so many good buffs for you to then, you would cast that, and then go give it to someone. So if you wanted to, I don't know, give your rogue more movement speed, you could do. If you wanted to give one of your characters that doesn't have dark vision, you can. So many good options for you to use, and really that is the flavour of the Artificer subclass. Now, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have, please let me know your thoughts below. What would you change about this build? What would you do differently based on what the Artificer can have? If you plan on using this in your game, let me know. And if you have enjoyed it, please drop the video a like. It helps me amazingly. If you're new and you're not subscribed, if you'd like to, that'd also be amazing. And hopefully, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.